Hey guys, welcome to the Own It or Quit It podcast. This is Jissan and Gyongy here. And we're gonna join forces for a couple of sessions and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in the world of corporate life and career. Jissan, why are we doing this actually?
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think when we were speaking previously, we were always discussing about the lessons learned, what are some of the conversations we're having with our clients, and we quickly realized that, hey, there may be some really strong lessons learned here when we just record our conversations, and maybe it motivates and spurs some thinking for individuals out there that are watching today. But, it's just a great opportunity for two people who have done career transitions for a long time to just kind of chat and catch up.
Indeed, indeed. So guys, you need to know, Jason and I go back to many years in time. We met how many years ago?
Oh, it must have been over a
10
decade ago.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And we just reconnected a couple of weeks, months ago, maybe. And we had such joyful conversations, lots of fun. And we just thought, why don't we record this? Definitely my clients, I'm sure they would love to hear some real stories from navigating the corporate ladder. And let's say if we can create a little community where we can share true, real stories, show real stuff, not filtered, not edited, just how things are, and support each other in the journey. So, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Junji. So, I've been in the US and I've been, developing a wide career and a vast career for over 20 years. So, what's really interesting is last year I made the decision to kind of retire from corporate America and start my own company. But, over the 20 years, I held 12 roles of increasing responsibility. So, one of the things that I realized was that I was able to quickly figure out what are the little hacks that you need to have when you're developing a career, when you're starting a new role, when you're establishing yourself in a new organization. Because, I had an opportunity to kind of accelerate and have increasing responsibilities. But with that comes challenges, with that comes imposter syndrome, all of the things that everyone always challenges themselves with. So, it was really exciting to be able to say, okay, after 20 years, let me actually sit down and start to share what I've learned and actually work with clients to help them through their career, right? So,
Yeah.
it's been incredibly rewarding. I think I've always been surprised. There's always been, some roles where it felt like, oh, am I taking a step back? But at the end of the day, the longer time frame of your career, all of those moves matter and they all build on each other. Even if it feels like, oh, is this a step back? Is this just a lateral move? All of them have value in its own ways. So I think it's going to be exciting for us to be able to talk about some of those learnings.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. All right. So similar at my end, I actually had 26 years in the corporate world. I lived in various European countries, and my last 8 years was in the UK. I actually worked all 26 years in one company. Can you believe it? I don't think there are careers like that anymore. So I was in HR and I got into HR accidentally in beautiful Budapest. As you may hear from my accent, I'm not a native English speaker, and that was one of the source of the fun throughout my career. And yeah, so career just happened to me. I haven't really planned much around it. I was so lucky meeting the right people at the right time, and opportunities came in my way. But I also had some bumpy experiences, and I had times when I was pretty miserable at work. And interestingly, those times brought as much, if not more, insights about um, the job I'm doing now than the good times. So I really believe in sharing everything and not over polishing and not over fetishizing the experience, but just give it how we lived it.
You know,
So
It's
Mm.
so interesting, Junji, that you say that because I'm sure that there's people today that are watching us and they may be in that miserable situation right now. They may be in a moment in their career where they feel like there are no alternatives. Can you talk a little bit about why you've experienced these challenges? I'm sure people are wondering, well, who are these two individuals? Why do they have experiences with these kind of challenges? Can you give an example of, maybe a challenge that you've dealt with and why you have
Yeah,
some kind of.
definitely. So I felt quite lucky for many years. I felt like I always met the right people. Always got excellent jobs. It was always hard work, and there were kind of small miserable days when I felt like just swamped by the work. But I think when I really felt anxiety creeping on me was when I felt I'm not in the right environment. I'm not surrounded by people who support me, and we just didn't click. And I had huge respect for them, but it just did not work, And it was incredible how I lost my confidence within minutes, and how I started to be upset, more irritable, and the more it went on, I started to make mistakes. I lost absolutely the ground under my feet. And fortunately, at some point, I realized something is going really in the wrong direction. So I hired a coach, and I keep saying he saved my life, but I know I saved my life. But he was instrumental in that change, and what he provided me is a safe space to reflect and face the truth, what's happening, and find a strategy how to gain back control over my situation and my life. And I made some changes. I changed job. I moved to another part of the business, and I regained my confidence. And also, I realized that probably I'm coming to the end of my corporate journey, and some sort of love is over that I felt before for the company. So I started to proactively plan
Mm,
my exit, and while planning, I was very vocal about it. I shared honestly with my colleagues, with my bosses, where I am in my journey. And interestingly, the more I shared, the more I attracted people who were in similar dilemmas. So I ended up having many coffees and afternoon drinks, just or evening drinks with people who shared with me their struggle. So so even while I was on my journey of reinventing myself and finding a new path, I was already doing what
mm.
I'm doing now, which is, helping people in career transitions, typically midlife and beyond, when the moment comes when you just feel it's been beautiful, but I can't possibly do this any longer. So,
Yeah.
what's your story? How any kind of interesting failures or miserable times
Yeah.
for you?
It's so funny as you were describing that, it just came to mind the title of our podcast, Own It or Quit It, right? Where
Mm,
you have those opportunities, you have those challenges, and you have
yes.
to make a decision, right? And I think for a lot of our viewers, it might be that point of time where it's either you own the situation that you're in or you have to make a decision on what you're going to do next. For me, it was a little bit different because I'm earlier in my career, and one of the biggest things that I realized in my first job was I was in the technology industry, worked for a fantastic software company and loved it. But I found myself pigeonholed where I loved marketing. I loved the idea of working with consumers, but I happened to get an undergraduate degree in IT, information systems. So a lot of times when I was trying to do internal transfers, trying to move to the marketing organization, I was told, well, your undergraduate degree is in technology, therefore you need to stay in these technology roles. Even though I had this personal passion and I felt that yes, I haven't taken the specific courses in marketing, but I do have a mind and have a consumer perception and an ability to be able to connect with consumers. So I was desperately trying to get into the marketing departments and had to make a tough choice where it felt like, okay, that's not going to happen. So then do you stay in your current career trajectory or do you take some bold steps and try to make some decisions. I ended up leaving that company, which I loved. I still love that company dearly because it helped me get the technology background that I have today. But if it started on a path of getting into marketing, and when you and I met, that was when I had my marketing career when I was in consumer healthcare. And, I've had a 13-year career in marketing. When you think about the 20 years, the vast majority of has it been marketing. And it wouldn't have been until I made that decision, probably in my second year of working in the industry, to say, you know what, I'm going to make a bold move. I'm going to try to get into marketing, and I'm going to have to leave this company to be able to do that. But, it was one of the most, boldest, bravest, scariest things I had to do, because you had to kind of walk away from everything you were taught and assume that you can bet on yourself. And I think a lot of times in my career, I've been betting on myself, right? I'm up
Yeah.
for the challenge. I can figure this out. I'll learn it along the way. And I think for a lot of our, viewers, potentially, they might be feeling the same way, where there's this internal burning to say, I think I can do it. I may not have a degree in it, but I think I understand this. And there's something about chasing that passion.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. Listen, shall we tell our listeners a little bit more about how we met? Do you want
Yeah,
to
yeah, of course. Do you want
share
to go first
how?
with the perspective? I would love to hear what you thought about it.
Yeah, all right, I can. So I was heading HR for Central and Eastern Europe, based out of Warsaw. And we were looking for a talent in our global marketing team. And you were in the talent pool you were a member of an interesting talent program, a really high profile talent program at the company, and you were recommended by many sources. um, and we had our doubts because it was Warsaw, and bringing a person from the US, that's going to be really expensive. Why should we do that? We have enough talent here. But that was the code in the company, that those who came on that special list, we always gave them a chance. And I remember we had this interview set up with you, and I was accompanying the regional head, who was a phenomenal talent developer, a person really who was not just doing talent management by lip service. He was really walking the talk. And probably that was, the strongest who I've ever worked with in talent development. And we met you, and I think we loved you from the first instance. And yes, you had no idea about what CE is. You've probably never traveled this part of the world
No,
before.
no,
No?
not at all.
And you were relatively new with the company, so you didn't have tons of experience. And you were relatively new to marketing as well, I think.
That's
But
right.
I think we saw the potential, and we saw that curiosity and energy and shine in your eyes. And we just thought, let's move this guy over. And um, and that was the first.
Yeah. It's so funny when I think about it. And thank you for saying all of that, right? Because I think for a lot of reasons, the reason why I was successful in my career was because people took bets on me. They saw some potential, and they decided that while there may not be performance over time or over multiple decades of experience, there's something here with potential that you can bet on. And for me, it was a classic, example of imposter syndrome. So I had been with the organization for 2 years. I had an opportunity to work in the US in a entry level marketing role. I quickly moved to Vietnam and had some exciting opportunities there, but still working in, marketing and things like that. But it's my second role. And this opportunity came up in Central and Eastern Europe. And, my wife and I moved out there. We were in Poland for the very first time, and it was a regional role. So a lot of the expectations were, do you understand the cultural nuances of Central and Eastern Europe? And I think when I came into that role, I just wanted to build the best marketing organization we possibly could. And, this role was essentially joining the leadership team on the Central and Eastern European side. So, I basically went into that interview saying, okay, I'm probably not going to get it, but let me go through this experience. Let me feel what it's like interviewing for these kind of roles, because one day I want to have that. And I think my passion came through. And, there were many times where I was even challenging whether or not I can do it, but it was one of those things where I said, "Hey, look, if you always wanted to do marketing and you feel like you have an ability to develop people and teams and culture, hopefully that's what came through, right? But yeah, fast forward 2 years we spent together building that marketing organization alongside another marketing leader. We built culture. We went through joint ventures and lots of different reorgs, but I think we found strength in each other. And
Yeah.
I'm always excited because, whenever you have an HR partner you can trust and you can really confide in, it allows you to bring the best as a leader to your organization. So, but yeah, it's one of those classic moments. And then, we went our own ways after that. And, it was almost a decade later that we reconnected like this and, sharing those stories. It's nice.
Exactly. It's wonderful. So listen, how should we do this? This is the introductory session. So
Yeah,
we're not gonna talk about um, career much yet. We just would like to set the scene today, right?
that's
So
exactly right.
what's your view? How should we do this? What should be the tone of our
You know,
podcast?
what I was thinking was this is basically a very conversational podcast. This is not here's a lecture series on how to build teams or develop your career. This is about the raw, dirty, here's experience we lived through, here's challenges we've coached people through. I think what would be helpful is once we get into this to really make sure that we're leaving the audience with some real takeaways, maybe a couple of questions to consider as they end the podcast to say, okay, here's a little bit of homework. Here's something that I should think about now that I've listened to, these two individuals talk about their experiences. So I think our commitment is always to leave them with a little bit of work to kind of, go back and do a little self-reflection. I think for all of us, personal branding, self-awareness exercises have always been at the forefront of how we've developed ourselves, right? So I think it'll be good to leave that with them. But I think also it's just, brutal honesty about the good, the bad, and the ugly in the world of career development. The good thing is we've all landed in fantastic places, so it's never as bad as we think it is when we're going through it, right? And I
Yeah,
think maybe a little bit of
exactly.
motivation, a little bit of humor along the ways, and we like to laugh, so hopefully we keep a smile on people's faces.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely echo that. I think that's the right angle. It resonates with me as well. And you know what? I also think if we are able to create this honest environment, we might be able to attract people like you and I, people who think similarly, and maybe they are a little bit earlier in their journey, and they need some inspiration, and they need a safe space where they get support. So I'm very ambitious to kind of build a community and help each other to kind of demonize career development and just to kind of free up more creativity around how to live a bigger life and do jobs that we love and jobs that bring us everything that we want from them, but do it in a way that it's less stressful and brings more joyful, probably.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I mean, we spend the vast majority of our life in these careers. It can't be a negative place. It can't be a place that drains you. It has to be a place that energizes you. So hopefully, what we share helps individuals who are going through tough times. But also, if you're also a high performer and you're doing incredibly well, hopefully there's lessons that we can teach in terms of how you accelerate your career as well. So it's not always about the negative. It could also be, you're doing great. Here's how you go to exceptional. And here are the little things that you can figure out because at some point, these individuals become people leaders. So
Mm,
you are an incredible individual contributor, but then you get the opportunity to go and develop a bunch of other people and give them the same path. And that's, a little bit of paying it back, right? Is treating
absolutely.
others and giving people that are behind you the opportunity to lead with potential, just like someone else gave you the opportunity to lead with potential. So yeah, you'll be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So shall we kind of finally talk a little bit about the demographics that we thought
Yeah,
we are interested in?
absolutely.
So, so I'm very curious about work and career beyond 50. We all hear about the trends that we live longer than before. And we also know that the current pension systems will not be able to just, offer us early retirements, that we need to be staying relevant and marketable as long as we can. We also know that retiring is not necessarily good for our health. Living with purpose and do meaningful work that fits with our abilities and with our ambition. It's actually a very good thing for us. So I'm very curious about how to keep reinventing ourselves as we are aging, and how to stay relevant, and how to kind of live a passionate, meaningful life that also brings income for us longer. So, what are you focusing on?
Yeah, for me, I think it's on the other spectrum in terms of young professionals who are still early in their career and trying to figure out the rules of corporate America. I think, throughout my 20 years, I've spanned across three different industries. So I've worked in technology, I've worked in strategy consulting and consumer healthcare. And each time in a lot of the roles that I was in, I found myself as the youngest person in the room. So with that comes its own vulnerabilities, its own imposter syndrome, but also the ability to navigate. How do you have the right conversations with managers? How do you build your personal brand? How do you continue to accelerate? So, where I'm very interested in is helping all of those inexperienced young professionals that have a ton of potential and talent, but perhaps no one sat them down and told them, here's the unspoken rules, right? And I think both
Mm,
you and I can help people understand, well, here's what a talent review looks like. Here's what you should be
mm,
doing with your manager to help position you for some of those promotions and opportunities. So I think, between the two of us, we're going to be covering a wide spectrum of audience. And I think there's so many lessons learned on both ends that we can talk about. But yeah, I'm just passionate about this. When I was in corporate America, I was leading a lot of teams of young professionals, and the best and most motivating moments for me in my career was when I was having those one-on-one conversations with them about personal development, about team development. So bringing that
yeah.
to the forefront is going to be exciting.
Fantastic. And maybe just to kind of connect the two ends of the spectrum, the reason why we decided to do this series, because we realized that although we talk about our focus is on two different age group, if you like, the lessons learned are incredibly similar, and there are a lot of shared knowledge that could help, the younger generation as well as the more mature generations. So let's see if we can meet that commitment that we're gonna have conversations that are interesting for everyone, for all age groups. And of course, we'd love to hear about, what interests our audience, but we're gonna come to that maybe in our future, in our next session. So for now, what's our call to action? We want people to hit the subscribe button if
Yep.
they're interested hearing more. And then we're gonna do a little bit of sharing of this on maybe on LinkedIn. What else are we going to do to get us started?
Yeah, I think that's it, right? I think it's starting to put ourselves out there. If you feel a connection with us, please join us on this ride. One of the things that we're going to do is make sure that it's not overly scripted. So
Yeah.
based on what's happening in society, there's a lot of things happening across whether it's America or Europe. We'll bring some of those, conversations into what it means for careers. There's a lot of stuff around returning to the office, remote work. There's a lot of kind of behavioral things. So I think our promise is that this is never going to be scripted. We're going to come in, we're going to bring in the energy that we feel, and we also have, established networks in LinkedIn. So we're also seeing what all of you are talking about. So I think this is going to be a good voice for you to hear what, concerns you and what interests you. And at the same time, maybe we'll have some fun with it. And worst case scenario, there's a bunch of podcasts out there. So, there's no reason why we can't join the fray.
Exactly. Exactly. Brilliant. So let's do this. And guys, we are hugely grateful if you join us and if you subscribe for our channel, and looking forward to go together on this journey.
We'll see you all soon.
See you soon.